The Nigerian government has announced it is collaborating with Amazon Prime Video to train Nigerians on local content in movie production and boost opportunities. This was disclosed by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, in a meeting with officials of Amazon Prime Video towards building capacity of Nigerians for local content in movie production. We're going to talk about these headlines right now with Mayowa Ige, who is an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Mayowa, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with that, the Team Apps news. You think digital lending has a healthy future in Nigeria?
Oh yeah, it does have a healthy future. The future is very bright for digital lending. There's still, the space is still filled with promises. Let's just look at the way tech is changing, revolutionizing the financial service space. It's happening from investment to insurance. So lending is not an exception to this. We'll continue to see a growth in that space. And then when we also consider the demographics, we have 50% of our population in Nigeria are youth, and we know that youth are primarily technology driven. So they would go on these lending platforms. And then when we actually look at the benefit of digital lending, it eliminates the opacity of the lending space that we saw with traditional institutions in time past. So that's still relevant in this time. We'll continue to see that. And when we also look at the trend with even the traditional finance institutions, a lot of them are also coming up with their own lending platforms. We have quick credit from GT. Right. We have Quick Box with Access Bank. They are also seeing that there's promise in this space, and they're also changing their model of business to go into this space and also attract the younger generation to their business with this.
Great stuff. Last segment, we're talking about debts, and restructuring of debts, and defaults, debt to GDP, so on and so forth. But for individuals, what about the risk of default? I know Team App said their payback is 94%, and that's in this kind of environment. What do you mean? What about the risk of default? What do you make of that?
Well, it's there. You can't take it away. With the positives will come the negatives, such as the risk of default. I mean, I don't know if you received any of these text messages. Oh, do you know so it's owing this is a chronic defaulter and all of that.
Yes.
People have been receiving that, and that's also what comes with this space. I think NIDA had to find, is it Soko Pay or something, for breach of privacy or data privacy based on that. But then the thing is, there are actually measures that can be put in place. Companies like Team App would have put those measures in place of checking credit history, right? But when you look at some lending platforms wanting to attract customers by any means, they actually reduce all these measures that they should have put in place, and then they actually open up themselves to loan defaulters. So that would be a problem for companies that are not rigorous in their screening of customers before they lend to them. But you can't take away that issue from the space.
When you consider economic conditions right now, where the exchange rates, wages not moving in line with fuel costs going up and inflation, everything else, can digital lending scale across the country, you think?
Well, yes. Still, those points are very valid in this sense that when you have Nigerians spending about 55% of their income on food alone, right, by the time they finish sorting out food, shelter, what's left to actually repay a loan? But the thing is, credit would always be in any economy. It's almost like a backbone of any economy, really. So that will still be there. I don't think that companies will scale back per se. We may see a slowdown in it as they try to recover bad loans in the short term, but in the long term you still see them operate. I think that we'll just see companies being more careful in how they give out loans, they'll be more careful in how they review credit histories. And the truth is that there are actually many companies out there that actually help. You have the credit bureau, you have the BVN that can actually help in this space, and then there's also something, the GSI, the Global Standard Instruction. Yes, I think it's for only the banks, commercial banks, that have been put on that. Yeah. We'll probably see, I think microfinance banks will be put on soon, but depending on how CBN probably comes up with a regulation for the fintechs, the digital lending platforms, they might actually come on this, and this would actually help in the long run for these companies. So there's I don't think that they will scale back, as there's still ways that they can actually go about their business, taking proactive measures to avoid bad loans.
Gotcha. Let's talk about this collaboration between Amazon Prime Video and the federal government. What do you make of it? What do you make of the Lai Mohammed announcement? Yeah.
So you see this. Well, it's not entirely bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you wonder, you think, do we not have players that can actually train the youth, right?
On film production.
Production here. We have Ebony Studios, we have Iroko TV that's even into streaming and all of these things. So you wonder, but then you can look at this space too and also say that maybe our movie industry still has room for growth. There are things that they actually miss. Right, like storyline, and then so maybe that's where, and then definitely I think the business side of it, there's something to learn from Amazon when it comes to the business side in itself. So maybe the federal government has something that they're up to. So I mean,
you think it's Friday? I'm thinking people are going to the movies. I think I might have asked you this before. I'm not sure, but anyway, streaming services as a threat to cinemas. I think that's a real threat.
Well, yes, in a sense, it's growing, right? Already, I think it was last year or this year. There's this, is it on Prime? The Adventures of Mrs. Maisel or something. It was nominated for the Emmys. It had like 30 or something nominations. That is a movie released on a streaming platform. So we're seeing these movies on streaming platform go into even award ceremonies, being nominated for awards. So yes, I think that there's that part of it that would impact cinema revenues and all, but the magnitude of it I cannot tell. But then there's still that part where the movies, the theaters will still be relevant, because some people, there's just some movies, for instance, that you just have to see on the big screen, right? I think Thor is recently out, and then people are going to the cinemas to see it. And then we're still social in nature. We still want to go out. And then for some people in places like Nigeria, other developing countries, countries may want to consider data and all of that, data cost and all of that. So yes, it would impact, but the magnitude of it is still yet to be decided on.
Still, while we're talking about streaming, Disney Plus, opening up their services in South Africa. They've been there, I think they've been there now a couple months now. Why haven't they opened up? Why haven't they released their services here? We're a bigger market than South Africa. What do you think? What do you think the issue is? Why is Disney Plus not here yet? Why? Why they pick South Africa over Nigeria?
So I think there could be a number of reasons, mainly political when you look at it. I mean, look at Twitter. They just banned Twitter for
a number of months.
No reason for a number, and it came out open. I think the ECOWAS recently ruled that was unlawful or something. And then when you look at all these things, stability, Nigeria is not very stable in terms of policy, and then the South African market is a more developed market. So if they're coming into the continent, it only makes more sense to start in a controlled or a stable environment, get your model right, then expand to the next market, next big market like Nigeria. We saw there's DSTV. They started in South Africa. They started from somewhere before they moved into countries like Nigeria and the likes. So I don't think it's odd that they started in South Africa. It's a more advanced market than Nigeria, and it only makes more sense considering economic and policy stability.
Have you seen the new Lord of the Rings trailer from Amazon Prime Video? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Jeff Bezos tweeted it yesterday. Apparently it cost about $450 million to make. That is, probably it's his money, I don't know. But the streaming space is very, very interesting.
That's why maybe...
the federal government wanted to talk to Amazon.
Do you remember movies? You see some Nigerian movies, they're about to have an accident, and you know, because you're saying, woo, woo, woo. I'm like, oh, really?
So they're probably going to help them out with that.
Probably going to help them out on that one.
Mayowa Ige, analyst in Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.